You ever have one of those days where you step out your front door and think, well, hell, this is a day I lose my mind or end up on the evening news? That was the first time I met Sharon Vandal. She was standing in my driveway, arms folded so tight you'd think she was about to issue me a parking ticket right there on my own dirt. You can't have that RV parked there, she told me, wrinkling her nose like my place smelled of bad cheese. It violates our HOA aesthetic guidelines. Now, I'm a patient guy, but something about her tone just rubbed me wrong. I leaned against my fender, chewing on a toothpick. Sharon, I'm not even in your HOA. She blinked, stunned like the computer in her head just through a blue screen. Excuse me. I pointed down the gravel road, snaking behind my barn. That little stretch your folks used to get in and out? That's my land. I just inherited all 200 acres from my Uncle Walter. Got the survey and the deed to prove it. Her mouth opened, but not a sound came out. See, Sharon was the president of Larkshore Ridge HOA place where every house was a vinyl-sided monument to conformity, where you got fined if your mulch was off-shade or your mailbox dared be unique. And their one and only access road? A dusty lane cutting straight through my property. Uncle Walter never cared. He let them use it for free. But Walter also never had Sharon stomping up his drive, threatening fines for visual pollution. I hadn't planned on being difficult, but Sharon just about made it an Olympic sport. 3 days later, I get a letter from the HOA by certified mail. Cease and desist obstructing HOA access, it says, or face legal action. There's grainy photos of my RV, a chicken coop I don't even own, and a highlighted section of their bylaws. I laughed so hard, I nearly snorted coffee out my nose. I sent back a single sentence. Your access road sits on my land. You have no legal easement. We can negotiate one. That's when things got interesting. Sharon called an emergency board meeting, invited me to show up. I came in jeans and a flannel shirt, still dusted with sawdust from my workshop. Sharon looked ready to filibuster Congress in her pantsuit. She laid out her stack of bylaws, nails tapping like a woodpecker. The HOA has used that road for over 20 years. That gives us prescriptive easement rights. I just opened a folder when Walter had left me. Not if Walter gave you written permission, which he did. Signed, dated, notarized. Gasps. Sharon's face turned a color that can only be described as raw beef. Then we'll fight it in court, she snapped. Sure, I said, but while you're in court, I'll be putting up a gate. No one's getting to Larkshore Ridge without a pretty good hike through the woods. Chaos. Someone knocked over a pitcher of water. Someone else started whispering, "Call the lawyer." I stretched, smiled. Or, you can pay me a fair fee for easement rights. $2,000 a month. Guaranteed access, 24/7. Otherwise, road closes Friday. I heard Sharon's teeth grind like she was chewing on gravel. By Thursday, first payment was in my hand. Second month, Sharon sent someone else. Alan, late 60s, polite, vice president of the board. We need to talk alternatives, he said, glancing at the puddles by my porch. I poured a sweet tea. Residents are starting to ask questions, he told me. Some say we should just build a new road. I grinned. Unless you have $1 million and a bridge crew, good luck. Those granite ridges and the creek don't play nice. He winced. It's worse than we thought then. Way worse, I said. Other way out runs through wetlands. Corps of Engineers would just laugh. He set his glass down. Sharon's not going to like this. I shrugged. She doesn't have to, but maybe stop pushing her luck. I didn't mention what I'd found in the county records the day before. Sometimes it's better to wait for the right moment. Next week, I see survey flags bright orange planted along the access road. I follow them into the woods. The next morning, a couple guys in hard hats show up with ground scanners. We're here to assess the feasibility of an alternate route, one says. On whose land? I ask. This parcel. He checks his clipboard. Board told us it's under HOA jurisdiction. Wrong answer, I reply, pulling out my phone. You've got 10 seconds to get off my property before I call the sheriff. They vanished faster than a tax refund. That afternoon, I dug through county filings and found it. A forged easement backdated my uncle's name scribbled in the wrong hand. Walter's signature had a distinct double loop in the W. This one, just a lazy curve. I made copies and headed straight to the sheriff. Detective Graves, all coffee and gun oil, listen close. They forged a document for a permanent easement. Exactly, I said. The next day, deputies served subpoenas at the HOA clubhouse. Sharon tried to block them, but Graves was already inside. Two residents stood beside me, watching. They said it was some paperwork formality, one told me. Not quite, I replied. They tried to steal land. She frowned. You're Walter's nephew, right? I didn't vote for Sharon. She wandered off. By week's end, Graves updated me. The HOA's lawyer, William Cleneguy, already sanctioned twice for shifty tactics, was charged with felony fraud. Sharon wasn't far behind. Texts revealed she'd ordered him to handle it quietly. The local paper had a field day. HOA president under investigation. At the feed store, the clerk grinned at me. Heard you're giving those Larks folks a real education. They're learning, I said, slinging a bag of seed. I installed trail cams, motion-activated, infrared. Not because I expected trouble, but because I knew Sharon wouldn't go down without a fight. Sure enough, late that night, my phone buzzed two figures with flashlights creeping the woods. Deputies responded, but not before one tripped a wire-eyed rig between stakes. The flare lit up the hillside like the 4th of July. Next day, Graves reviewed footage. That's definitely clean, he said. On bail and violating no contact, he's going back in. Sharon resigned 2 days later. Alan took over as interim president, called for a Real open forum. He asked me to show up and share my side. Room was packed, folks on folding chairs, teens on the floor. I told them, I'm not here to make enemies, but I won't be walked on. My uncle let you use that road for free, and you thanked him by forging documents. That's not how neighbors behave. A man raised his hand. We didn't know. Sharon told us you were extorting us. I held up a copy of the forgery. This is a felony. Your dues paid the lawyer who did it. Murmurs all around. Alan stepped up. We're opening an audit every expense 5 years back. Board elections next month. After a few folks shook my hand. One offered pie. Another asked if I'd help draft a new charter. I said I'd think about it. On my way home, I pulled up the survey flags and tossed them in my truck. Let the HOA make their own trails from now on. A couple weeks later, a beat-up sedan with no plates rolled to the edge of the access road just past dusk. I was on the porch, oiling my chainsaw. Headlights off, driver steps out with a metal pipe, starts banging on my gate. I flipped on the floodlight. Evening, I called. He froze. I stepped forward, phone recording. You lost. He bolted tires, flinging gravel. I caught the last 3 digits off a sticker on the windshield. County auction tag. I sent the footage to Graves. Next morning, cars stolen out of Jefferson County. Not random. Someone sent him. You got enemies? Graves asked. Just one, and she's running out of options. Turns out, the road was just the tip of the iceberg. Alan slid into the booth across from me at a diner, eyes tired. Sharon kept 2 sets of books, one for the residents, one for herself. Fake landscaping, payments to non-existent companies, reimbursement for a Scottsdale retreat. No one else on the board knew. You call the state attorney? Already did. Formal audit coming. A few days later, Graves called guy in the sedans in custody. Paid $500 cash to take care of a lock, handed tools, and a burner phone by some guy in a parking lot. Phone ping near the old clubhouse guest who's still been using it after hours. Got enough to charge her. Attempted trespass and conspiracy, on top of fraud. DA's rolling it all together. The new board worked fast. Opened the books, hired a forensic accountant. At the audit meeting, a flannel-vested resident stood up. All those fines for shutters and garage lights. Where'd the money go? Accountant didn't flinch. Personal account Sharon Vandal's name. Gasps. Alan announced. We're filing a civil suit for restitution. Submit claims if you're fined unfairly. We'll make it right. He caught me outside. We're removing the old board. Starting fresh. Will you advise us? Help write a charter that stops this abuse. I said I'd think about it. Truth was, I'd started reading up on easement law. Turns out, a lot of rural folks get steamrolled by HOAs. One morning, I get a call from the county paper. Your story's making the rounds. You're setting a precedent. I just went back to tightening a fence post. I wasn't in this for attention. Then the sheriff calls Sharon to try to run. Got stopped at a toll booth with 17 grand in cash. Judge denied bail. DA's pushing for a quick trial. I didn't need to watch it unfold. Already knew the ending. Instead, I met Alan and Joe from the board, installing a new sign at the gate. Larksour Ridge Private Access. Maintained with easement agreement. Joe wiped his hands, grinned. Place was feeling like a prison. Now it's a neighborhood again. Come to the potluck next month. I told him I'd bring the cornbread. The courthouse was packed for Sharon's hearing residents, reporters, the whole circus. DA laid it out. Wire fraud, forgery, trespass, embezzlement. Then the bombshello whistleblower, former board member. Emails showing Sharon skimmed funds for years, hired private eyes to dig into people's finances. The judge asked for a plea. Sharon's lawyer whispered, and finally, she just said, guilty. You could feel the tension break, like someone snapping a rubber band. Max penalty, 20 years. DA's pushing for 12. She went straight back to lockup. Alan caught me outside. She pulled credit reports on over 20 residents. Tried to dig into a widow's bank records. She buried it under fake invoices. We're offering legal help to anyone she hurt. Back home, I got on with my chores. Spring rains had washed out a drainage ditch. County Supervisor Marta dropped by. If something happens to you, or you close the gate, 300 people are trapped. The board's considering a permanent public utility easement tone time payout, but you lose the leverage. I shook my head. I'm not selling out for a tractor's worth of cash. Not after what I've seen. She just wrote it down. County would table the motion for now. The next week, first town hall meeting with a new board community park, string lights, potluck tables. Alan spoke. We're going to be transparent. Accountable. No more closed doors. He called me up. I said, I'm not your enemy. I just don't like being your problem. When folks let this kind of thing slide, it spreads. Old-timer Frank shook my hand after. She fined me $300 for my flagpole. Had the permit, too. I'm filing a claim. Over 70 folks submitted for reimbursement. The board approved most, brought in a mediator. Then, early summer, Alan showed up again. We want to build a backup exit northern edge of your land, just for emergencies. I looked at the plans, checked the numbers. You're going to need to clear timber. Not cheap. Already budgeted state grant. But it's for emergency use only. No shortcutting for trucks or deliveries. Deal. By late summer, the new bylaw amendments said no more fines without outside review. No more secret meetings. No board member more than 2 terms. Charter passed by 84%. Alan thanked me. Without you, none of this comes to light. He asked if I'd run for office. I laughed. I like my porch too much. Watched the dust settle behind his truck, turned back toward my fields. Sun was dipping low, shadows stretching across that same gravel road that started all this trouble. Quiet now, just wind in the trees and the distant hum of cicadas. The kind of peace you earn, not the kind you inherit. Thing is, folks like Sharon, they count on you being too tired or too nice to push back. Maybe that's the lesson here. If you give up your boundaries, someone else is more than happy to redraw them for you and not in your favor. Took me most of a year, a few court hearings, and more than a little patience, but I'd say justice was served. Maybe not perfectly, but enough. So what do you think? Is there ever a line between standing your ground and holding a grudge? When does protecting what's yours become just another power play? Drop your thoughts below. Share your own HOA nightmare or just tell me where you're watching from. Because around here, neighbor means something again, and that's worth fighting for.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.